gentlemen, welcome into the program. This is Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, founder of TJ Stearns, Inc., located in Arlington Heights and serving as a proactive planning resource for Chicagoland area savers and investors. So many tune in each week, and many have taken the time for a complimentary review, initial planning strategy session, and to get your Protect and Grow written retirement plan put together, ladies and gentlemen. But so many more need a plan, Tim, because there are so many questions and concerns and doubts and worries about our financial future. And in fact, you said you wanted to address one of those critical conversations that you are having on today's program of why people have so much doubt and worry and concern.
Well, Peter, what the topic I wanted to talk about is because people are coming into my office daily, weekly, even over the weekends, and they're really concerned about what's going on with Washington. And, the title of the show should be, will Washington wipe out our retirement? And so there's a lot of different items in there, enough to make a show about that I think is very important. I think it's really poignant for this time of a lot of these baby boomers are getting ready to retire, and they're concerned that, someone's gonna, I'll use this analogy, move the cheese inside the maze, as if we're mice trying to get to the finish line, right? And so I figured, we should do one about, will Washington wipe out our retirement?
Yeah. I agree, Tim. I hear a lot of questions and concerns and chatter and talk about that as well. And there seems to be some reason behind that. I would feel and agree. And I'm certain that you hear a whole lot more about it in your conversations with clients or those that are trying to plan proactively, because as you mentioned, it feels like the cheese could be moved on us at any time. It feels like our goal of trying to get to the finish line, the end destination of retiring and then retiring with confidence, could be eroded and undermined by a lot of what is going on in Washington. So will Washington wipe out Wall Street or wipe out retirement hopes and prospects for even those among us that have saved and planned and invested proactively? I think that is a legitimate concern. We've certainly seen the dollar that we had 5, 10, 15 years ago lose a lot of value, but it's more than just that. And I think you would agree, Tim, you've talked about solving the modern retirement riddle. And I know you addressed some politics in that book, not just politics, of course, but
No.
that was one of the factors people worried about. There are a lot of questions, and Washington and what goes on up there is just one of them. But ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get a plan put together, which of course in solving the modern retirement riddle, Tim Stearns talks about rethinking the way that we think about this riddle and about retirement and the ways that you can address many of the questions and concerns. And that's what having a plan will help you achieve and accomplish, that Protect and Grow written retirement plan. If you would like to get a hold of that, if you would like to have a complimentary review, the planning strategy session, pick up the phone and give a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. Tim, it seems like, one of the mission goals and statements of the job of the government is to try to ensure domestic tranquility in our founding documents, right? But it seems like recently they've kind of been doing anything but. And when we look at our financial future, they don't seem to be helping much there to preserve tranquility either.
Well, I'll give you, the first area that I would talk about is just taxes. We are set to have this current tax bill expire at the end of 2025. And if they don't do anything, then this will happen. And, it's kind of a hot potato in an election year. And I get that they don't want to, they're not going to put their hands around that this year. But after that, I think they owe it to us to figure this out. And Trump has said that he wants to, continue it, for 8 to 9 years is what the quote was. And then Biden has said that, he wants to basically blow it up. So I don't know what that looks like, but I do know right now we are talking to our clients about, you do actually have an opportunity to do Roth conversions under the current tax laws. We know what they are. If they do nothing, we know that they're going to go up. I will say this, we have a deficit, and there's two ways to get out of a deficit, right? Cut spending or more taxation. And I think we all know what they're going to probably opt for, which is more taxation. So, What's to stop them from taxing more of our good earned money? Well, that is a part of a problem. So why not take care of that now? I use this analogy a lot in our workshops. If I walked up to you on the street and I said to you, how much money do you have for retirement? People could tell me. But if I asked them, how much in taxes will you pay in retirement? They would give you the blankest look you've ever seen because they really don't know. We don't know where taxes are going. So I will say this, if your advisor has not talked to you about a Roth conversion, then give us a call and we can take you through that exercise. It's worth the exercise to see if you can save on taxes. That being said, it's been 40 years since income taxes were this low. So I think there is an opportunity here. And I ask everyone in class, where do you see taxes going? And not one person has ever given me a thumbs down the last 2 years that we've asked that question. So give us a call. We'll get the book into your hands if you have over $500,000 worth of assets. And more importantly, talk to you about the opportunity that is looking you straight in the eye for this year and next year.
That number again, if you would like the Protect and Grow written plan, if you'd like a copy of that book, ladies and gentlemen, Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle, give a call now, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, we go to work to earn a paycheck and we receive money that's already been taxed. By the way, on the way to work, we're driving on roads that we have paid taxes to build and a vehicle that we paid taxes to buy and then have to pay taxes again to be able to keep each and every year. We have to fill it up with gas that's also taxed.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, we're taxed left and right on so many levels. And there's two sides to this from a government perspective, right? It's taxing and spending because the government does not manufacture and sell widgets or provide any kind of for pay services. They continue spending more than they are bringing in. And that's why we've got this deficit and this debt that it seems like every 3 to 6 months we come up against this debt ceiling. It's looming in perpetuity, it seems like. Are we ever going to get over this constant debate that the government's going to shut down and we're not going to have the day-to-day services that we rely on in life to keep the country as we know it if they can't get their act together and agree on this?
Well, I think about it. If you had a teenager that you just kept saying, okay, well, don't spend more than what I just gave you and don't spend more than I just gave you, why would they stop? So I think the change has to come from within, by us going to the polls in November and that type of thing, getting the vote out to change things, and I don't see us doing drastic changes, but maybe moving the needle a little bit at a time, to make the moderates and other people happy, or even independents, that there's a voice out there for that. So that's why I'm thinking the only way they get out of this is if, they see the opportunity for us to reduce taxes by reducing spending. And to your point, I don't see them doing that.
Well, within my lifetime, Tim, I think within most people's lifetimes, not a whole lot of memories of the government like actually taking proactive steps to address and solving any major problems. It seems that we've gotten by on getting by and we've been able to maintain certain things, but anything that is an issue, that is a problem, it just seems like it's festering, that it's getting worse, and that it generally goes unaddressed. So I don't know or see where they're going to rein in spending. And to me, that just leads to one natural conclusion, right? Because again, there's two sides to this on the balance. There's taxes and spending. If they're not going to stop spending, it seems natural that they're going to have to raise taxes into the future.
The other thing I see happening is that they're going to go after the federal estate tax, which also sunsets at the end of 2025. When I say sunset, it expires. So what will happen is it will come down to $5 million. And, they've talked about in Congress, coming down to $3 million to get people's assets. Even once Biden was elected, he had mentioned even $1 million. So you need to be careful that, these tax bills, they don't die. They just come back and they say they're going to go after the uber wealthy. And then the next thing you know, it's down the upper middle class, and that's the middle class. So that's another area that we're talking to our clients about, the life insurance that you can do to help pay down some of that federal estate tax and have a death benefit that is absolutely tax free. With assets that maybe you have in your IRA that are cooking by the minute with taxes in them. And that's why I say to people, we run a tax report, which again, that's www.MVP, most valuable player, MVP, certified financial planner, CFP.com. If you go on there, you will be able to see what your taxes are currently. That doesn't include the federal estate tax.
Yeah. A lot of people have made use of that available online calculator where you can crunch your own numbers and see what your likely retirement account tax liability, that tax bill throughout retirement, is likely to be if you defer, default, and don't take proactive steps, versus if you do take those proactive steps, what you could potentially bring that bill down to. The difference is astounding, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly worth the visits and crunching your own numbers there at mvpcfp.com. That's mvpcfp.com is the online retirement tax bill calculator that Tim Stearns CFP has made available for you to go on and crunch your own numbers, see them side by side. And again, that's mvpcfp.com, mvpcfp.com. Tim, I'm sure we'll circle back to taxes as we continue talking about, will Washington wipe out Wall Street? Will Washington wipe out our chances for retirement? Another way that could happen, though, Tim, is if the dollar loses its value or loses its status as the world currency, which I certainly have heard people talking about in a very concerned way. What happens if the dollar does lose its status as that world reserve, Tim? How does that impact my dollars, your dollars, everybody's dollars? What does the country look like the day after, the year after that were to happen, if that ever came to pass?
Well, if anyone's wondering what it looks like, just look what inflation has done to your dollar, right? It's weakened it. So if that does happen, that's going to weaken a lot of things within the United States, much like inflation has eroded our dollar. So we talk to people about having a plan that addresses inflation, and we're hoping that that plan will actually keep up with inflation or any devaluing that goes on.
Tim, I mean, we saw pretty significant inflation back a few years ago across 2021, especially, and they tried to address that in 2022. That really echoed and did not repeat, but rhymed, as the old saying goes. History does not repeat, but it often rhymes. It sort of rhymed with the circumstances of the late 1970s, where inflation was very high and they raised interest rates and the market suffered subsequently. But over time, the investment side has held up, right? The market has rebounded nicely. So hopefully, with capital that people did have invested and still have invested, is that we have, the goal, kept up with inflation, maybe not right in that period of time, but over time. Investments help us to offset inflation, correct?
Peter, the one answer that I have for that is that if you invest in stocks and that type of thing, that is the one thing I think that can overcome inflation. Even my mother, who's 94 years old, has money in the market. How else am I going to compete against inflation with her? Bonds, last 4 out of 7 years, bonds have lost money. I was looking at the Vanguard Total Bond Index. It was down 4 times in the last 7 years. So you look at that and you realize that, well, where else am I going to give at least a fighting shot to stay above inflation? It would be there.
Tim, you talk about helping people to design the protect and grow written retirement income plan, right? We've talked about taxes. Taxes are certainly going to take a bite out of our retirement. Inflation certainly going to take a bite out of the purchasing power of the dollars that we have for retirement. But that is what the protect and grow written retirement income plan is really all about, right? Is to help us understand where to protect against those forces and factors, and then continue to grow our money above the rate of inflation, and to help us preserve and protect purchasing power.
Sometimes I think when we talk to retirees in here, the baby boomers of the world, right? They're looking at, they feel like they're putting their thumb in the dike, right? The proverbial, the boy who's trying to plug the hole, right? So I mean, I see that, and I understand that. And that's why when they leave here, they leave with a full cohesive plan that is going to address inflation, taxes, life happening, having a growth bucket that's going to stay above and beyond what they need. If they want to leave a legacy, I mean, we're covering the whole gamut. And even including estate planning so that they have life insurance that not only has long-term care components to it, but it also has, death benefit that's absolutely tax-free. Those are the things that, when people leave here, they have a full package that's dynamic because, life comes at you pretty fast.
Tim, at the beginning of the program, you spoke about how a lot of people are worried that Washington may move the cheese, in your analogy that we are trying to make it through this maze, and that when we get to our end goal, we might be surprised that that's actually not what we anticipated being there. What you're speaking of, I think, more is legislative risk, right? Is like the 2019 Secure Act, the 2021 Secure Act 2.0, this tax environment expiring, the current tax bill expiring at the end of 2025 as we enter into 2026. These are examples of legislative risk, which I think presents a lot of worry and uncertainty, correct?
Well, one of the things I'll say to people in our workshops and our classes, I'm going to tell you a secret. Sometimes Congress is not looking out for our best interests, and everyone laughs, right? Because it's true. With the Secure Act, they did away with the ability to do stretch IRAs, which was, you could have left money to people for years and years. And now, if someone passes and it's not your spouse, in most cases, those Roths that you could have left to generations and generations without tax on them, or IRAs are going to need to be drained within 10 years. And I think that a lot of people talk about, oh, the market risk, they don't realize that legislative risk is real. The wrong people get into Congress, whoever that party might be, they can really screw up, where you thought you were headed, and kind of change the game, the rules and inside of the game that you thought that you had understood. So these are things that we're making sure that people know that we stay abreast of that stuff. I'm amazed at my workshops, at my college classes, the amount of people that have no idea about the Secure Act, like what it did. And then Secure Act 2.0, that's lost on them, And so we make sure that when they're leaving our classes that they understand, this is a big deal. It changed the landscape of retirement.
Tim, when we look at legislative risk, sometimes it's what they do, the new bills they pass, and then sometimes it's what they don't do. As I mentioned, a problem there just kind of looming and festering, such as is with Social Security, right? This is something that has a big impact on almost every retired American, is the solvency, is the stability, is the reliability of Social Security. And yet it's been a train coming at us in a tunnel. We've seen that headlight a long, long way away, but now it's closer and we haven't done much about it. Again, will Washington wipe out Wall Street? Will Washington wipe out retirement? Sometimes it's the lack of action, because the Social Security Trust Fund Administration last year released a report saying that by 2033,
Yep.
they anticipate only being able to pay 75 cents on the dollar of promised benefits in Social Security. And if you look at usdebtclock.org, yes, we've got a US national debt of closing in on 35 trillion, but another 26 trillion in unfunded Social Security liabilities, another 41 trillion in unfunded Medicare liabilities. So Tim, I guess the question there is the solvency of our system being in jeopardy, specifically with those systems that retirees depend on. Do you hear worry and concern, or do we get to just sort of shrug it off our shoulders like Washington seems to be doing?
Well, funny you bring that up. I just had a woman in here the other day who she was 64 years old, and I said, what's coming into your house as guaranteed money? Do you have pensions or anything? And she said, no, but I took my Social Security. She said, because I read that they're going to be out. I would have been 70 years old when they reduced my payments. And she said, heck no, I'm going to get my piece of the pie before it goes away. So yeah, we're very concerned about it, and I have people in here daily that are concerned about it, to the point where they don't realize that, there are a lot of options to fix the Social Security problem, right? And even Medicare. I think most people don't even realize Medicare has its own set of issues. But that being said, if they don't fix those things, the longer they wait to do that, the less options we have as a country. So I mean, ring up your senators, your congressmen, your House of Representatives, and say, "What are you doing to help me in this?" Because I don't think anyone really is. Neither party seems to be very concerned about the fact that Social Security is only going to pay 75 cents on a dollar by 2033. That's not really comforting.
No, and I don't know, Tim, if there is a solution out there, and I don't know what the reaction from the market would be, what it would look like if we did come to that time, if we sort of kept delaying and putting this off, and then there was a reckoning, so to speak, like they seem to have with these ongoing debt ceiling debates. If we eventually come to the end of the road and, at the stroke of midnight or a minute after, they say, "Hey, here's our solution. Here's what we're going to do about it." Does that instill confidence in our system? And does the market react anyway?
Not that I'm seeing. I mean, the market, they're not instilling confidence. And I'll tell you what, the market does roil when that stuff comes out, that they're going to move it a year up. That's not good, and what are they doing to fix it? People aren't stupid. They know that it's a hot potato. No one wants to jump on the grenade, whatever you want to use the analogy. No one's really doing much about it.
Yeah.
So we need to, figure it out. And I think the only way you figure it out is that squeaky wheel gets the oil.
It feels like Washington covers permanent problems with temporary solutions, right?
Well said.
And I know that the economy has to continue expanding, right? That it's not like it's a pie that is only so big, and if a slice comes out of it, there's just that slice is gone and there's no more. That it continues expanding. That the economy grows in its base. That's what facilitates economic growth. But at the same time, Tim, they're really making the case that more money printing equals and creates more problems for us.
Well, we talked about this, 5 months ago. It said, if you looked in your wallet and you had $10, $4 or $5 of that were printed in the last 4 years, and then they sit back and go, "Oh my gosh, where'd this inflation come from?" Well, I can tell you, all these spending and printing new money, it's going to lead to that. If you have you can keep a surplus of dollars all the time because they're printing them. How are we going to fix that? Well, it's funny, when they want to fix inflation, they seem to be able to get after it. So I'd like to see them do the same thing with Social Security, so that me, as at the age of 52, I'm not worried about it, and pulling my Social Security at 62 so that I can get my piece of the pie before I quote that lady, "It goes away."
It also seems to me, Tim, that those permanent problems, they just smack a Band-Aid on it. They're
Yeah.
hoping that will suffice until, their team gets in, whoever's team that is, and
Right.
can fix it and address it their way. But they seem to forget that there is balance, right? That both teams are always going to be in there. We've got to come to a point where there is some concession, where there is some negotiation, where there is reasonable people able to achieve what they want, but concede maybe some points to be able to negotiate and reconcile certain things so that at least something gets fixed. And I feel like I'm speaking in a way, and I don't mean to not be humble here, but in a way that has some common sense that it just doesn't seem that Washington possesses.
And I agree with that. I think they get so partisan that they won't even talk about it, right? So these are the things that we need to see happen a little bit more. But again, to your point, the more printing of money is not helping the problem,
Yeah,
and
but
that's going to lead to more.
for me and you and all of the clients that you see in and across Chicagoland, and all of the investors that you help across multiple states and the country, Tim, these are ongoing concerns. And you've
Right.
stressed time and time again that there is truly only one best solution, and that's for each individual to have and to formulate their own written plan.
Absolutely. It's not one size fits all over here. And I think a lot of people, when I see these illustrations that they come in with from other companies where they're saying, oh, the money's going to grow at 6% a year, don't worry, you're fine. I don't agree with that. I think an income allocation plan dictates to you that, there are going to be bumps in the road. Checking where you're at, because it's a dynamic plan, is so important every year. When we do checkups with people, we realize, oh, we're ahead of schedule. And you know what? They sleep better. So wouldn't you like to sleep better because A, you have a plan, and B, once you have that plan, you're just keeping an eye on it and making sure that you're making progress.
I believe that across America, throughout Chicagoland, very reasonable people are concerned with the prospects for the future and how those in Washington might impact our daily lives, many specifically concerned with the impact of our financial future, right? So we must take action and create that plan. Ladies and gentlemen, put your protect and grow plan together. We cannot prevent these forces that are outside of our control, but we can take steps to safeguard ourselves against them. And that is what having that protect and grow written retirement plan is all about. Tim Stearns offers no cost, no obligation to help you put that together, to define your goals and talk about the optimal way to have your money help you work to achieve them. If you'd like to get that plan put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. And the first 10 callers to today's program get a free copy of Tim's book, Solving the Modern Retirement Riddle. So once again, give a call, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256, or go online, tjstearns.com, tjstearns.com. Tim, always a pleasure having you here on the program. Thank you for being a resource and able to talk this through in a sensible way.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
Tune into Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns' full radio program and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals or growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.